Okay, what is happening, you photogenic Flaffy? Coming at you with a video that I'm sure a lot of you will be interested in. That's going to be my first take on the Charizard EX in the post-rotation format with Temporal Forces, of course. And speaking of Temporal Forces, if y'all are interested in getting some Temporal Forces products, well, Game Grid has got you covered right now over there. They got their Temporal Forces products available for pre-order. So if y'all are looking to pick any of that stuff up, check it out, GameGridSLC.com, and you can of course use code AzulGG over there as well to get yourself a discount, and as always, link will be in the description. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the Pokemon here, and going into this is my first take on Charizard. I've tested 0 games of the newest format, but when the set does release, I'll be playing something very, very similar to try Charizard out with the new cards when it first releases. So this is just all of my Pokemon knowledge and experience being put into what I think Charizard will look best like without playing any games with it. But I'm sure after I've played some games with Charizard, this list will definitely change. So this is my first take on Charizard EX post-rotation Temporal Forces format. And I'll be coming at you with a lot of these videos for decks for rotation / Temporal Forces format coming up here soon. But start off with the Charizard, because I think that's one you will all be most interested in from me. So of course we got the 3 Charizard EX. Nothing super special there. We have the 1 Charmeleon. We got the new Charmeleon, and now with that Flare Veil, prevent all effects of attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon. This is really useful to stop it being sniped from Sableye with the Lost Mine, or so it can't be TM Devoed. Because sometimes you're in a situation where like your Charizard EX, or maybe multiple Charizard EX in play, have damage counters on them, and when they get TM Devo, they would get KO'd as they become the Charmander, and then you maybe haven't been able to quite get your Charmeleon into a Charizard yet, but this would prevent it from getting TM Devo and going to your hand, which means all you need is one of those Charizards that just got TM Devo to re-evolve your Charmeleon into a Charizard, and then you're attacking with Charizard once again. So by far the best overall Charmeleon. I guess there could be arguments to play one of the other 2 Charmeleons for certain situations, but like neutrally, this is definitely the best Charmeleon. For the Charmanders, I just have a 2-2 split right now. We got 2 of the Heat Tackle, and the Heat Tackle definitely seems to be the best Charmander. That 30 damage up against stuff like Roaring Moon is really, really nice. So yeah, the Heat Tackle is the best one for sure. I do just have a 2-2 split because Ember still seems decent to have around. It kind of feels like a why not situation. I don't have any more of the other 70 HP Charmander that bumped stadiums because Paths of the Peak has rotated, so that Charmander doesn't seem very good anymore. But I could see going to like 4 Ember or like a 3-1 split, or I'm sorry, 4 Heat Tackle, the 60 HP one, 4 Heat Tackles, or like a 3-1 split, 3 Heat Tackles, and then just one of these Ember promo Charmanders. But I've got a 2-2 split in here for right now. It's early on in the format, so 2 Pidgeot EX, of course, the 2 Call for Family Pidgey. I'm still rocking the Radiant Charizard. The Radiant Charizard actually seems like it gets better in rotation Temporal Forces. So yeah, Radiant Charizard's in here. I got the Delphox in here, the cool new attacker. Now this is like early metagaming to include the attacker of the Delphox. Lugia did just win the first Champions League tournament, the first major tournament in the new format. And to be honest, the prize trade for Charizard doesn't match up super well into Lugia. The Cinccino being a 1 prize attacker that can KO anything on your field is not great. But they don't play Manaphy right now or yet. So I think Delphox could be a really good attacker up against that deck, where you can you know, snipe KO the active Cinccino and then KO the Minccino off the bench, or another Cinccino off the bench, kind of removing the threat of the Cinccino from play completely, and then take over the game with Charizard from there. Also, there's a lot of B-Barrel in the format as well currently, so I like the Delphox for that. You Iono your opponent, you counter catcher up 1 B-Barrel, you KO that B-Barrel, and then the snipe damage from the Delphox KOs the other B-Barrel. So this is just kind of like an early anti-meta game inclusion. I'm not sure if the Delphox is going to be worth it moving forward. And for the list that I have currently, I maybe don't play enough Fire Energy to warrant including the Delphox as well, but we'll get into that as we move throughout the rest of the list. But I think the value of Delphox definitely goes up with rotation and Temporal Forces, whereas like right now in the current Paradox Rift format, I don't think Delphox is great. I do think the value of it does go up moving forward. The 1 Manaphy in here, of course, to protect our bench. I don't play the Jirachi right now because Lost Box decks seem pretty meh. There is still like the threat of Lostina a little bit. There's like other Lost Zone decks as well. We actually have a card in here that can kind of double as like an answer to the damage spread from Sableye. And then 1 Lumineon, 1 Rotom, that hasn't changed. Still got the 2 V Pokemon in here to go alongside our 4 Sealstone. Next, we'll get into our supporter cards. Now, this is where I'm maybe coming up a little bit light, and we do have a couple heavier counts of cards in here we can maybe cut back on a little bit to re-up the supporter count. First, I've gone down to the 3 Arvin here, and I've actually potentially want to try going down to 2 Arven for maybe like a 4th Iono. I only have 3 Iono in the build right now, but yeah, 3 Arven in here currently. I do have the 3 Iono still, like I mentioned. No Professor's Research as another supporter that I might want to try and re-include into the deck. Maybe 4th Iono, maybe a Research. Probably not a Research though, because I've added the Roxanne. I really like the idea of the Roxanne in the Charizard deck because it allows you to disrupt your opponent in the mid game once they've gone down to that 3 prize card number, and then you get to get back up to the 6 cards that Roxanne gives you, which allows you to pull off much stronger combos on your next turn instead of Ionoing yourself down to like 3 or 2 cards. Sure, you disrupt your opponent down to 2 cards, but or maybe 3 cards, excuse me, with an Iono, but you disrupt yourself down to a really low hand size as well. Whereas Roxanne gets the same amount of disruption against your opponent, but you drawing 6 cards can lead to a lot more powerful follow-up turns. Of course, the drawback of playing like a Roxanne over just another Iono is you can't use it until your opponent has drawn 3 prize cards. I've been seeing a lot of people include this in their Charizard lists. I really like the idea of it. Not sold on it quite yet, but I think it's definitely worth giving a shot. And of course, we got the 3 bosses orders in here. You kind of can't not play 3 bosses orders. I guess you could. Maybe if you're playing the Prime Catcher, you could cut down on bosses orders. But otherwise, huge fan of the bosses orders. For the stadiums, all I have in here now is a collapsed stadium. No Path to the Peak in the format, so we don't really have to play a very heavy stadium count. But I still like the idea of the collapsed stadium to remove liabilities like the Rotom or Luminion, or maybe even a damaged Charizard throughout games. For the tool cards, keeping it pretty simple here. We do got the new Ace spec. I've printed out proxies for the new cards. I haven't printed out proxies in a really long time, and honestly, these are not the highest quality proxies, but they'll do. We got the maximum belt plus 50 damage to your opponent's Pokemon EX for whatever Pokemon this card is attached to, and is a tool card. Really powerful up against the mirror match. It's good against Chi and Pow. It's honestly good against so many things. It's good in the mirror match. It allows us to be aggressive against Chi and Pow and kind of open up the prize trade. Now the Chi and Pow player can't just like leave a Chi and Pow in the action and be like, ha ha ha, you can't KO this with the Charizard on your next turn. Now we can KO it with the Charizard on our next turn. And also other numbers against like Golden Go, and then there's like the Iron Hand, the future Iron Hands deck as well. This is pretty important again, so you can actually take an initial aggressive 2 prize knockout. Yeah, the maximum belt feels pretty good right now, to be honest. I know Prime Catcher is also a pretty powerful card as well, and I think there's actually some validity to the cape as well. The plus 100 HP cape, it keeps your Charizard out of range of like a Giratina with a maximum belt, or in mirror match in the late game, it keeps you out of range of that as well. So there's some validity to the cape as well, but maximum belt seems to be the best neutral tool card in Charizard right now. Maybe Prime Catcher is a little bit better, more neutrally, I guess, but yeah, we don't really know what the meta is going to fully shape up to be, but the maximum belt seems pretty good for sure. Got a choice belt in here still. A lot of Giratina going around, a lot of Arceus going around, stuff like that. I'm not sold on this. It could be the Defiance Band, or the Vitality Band could also still be pretty good, but I currently have the choice belt in here because Arceus and Tina are still floating around pretty heavily. 1/4 Seal Stone still, of course, to combo with our Rotom and our Luminion. 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball, and this is where that's what I was talking about. Maybe we're playing a little too many Nest Ball here. I got 4 Nest Ball. Like I said, for the stadiums, we only have the Artisan. I don't play, or only have the Collapse, excuse me. I don't play any Artisan right now because it kind of just gives it over to our opponent. Sure, maybe we'll be able to get multiple uses out of Artisan, but we never really rely on that. And giving our opponent access to Artisan doesn't feel great right now because we don't have to play a very high stadium count to counter Path to the Peak. I was like, well, what about just not playing Artisan? Because I don't really want to give my opponent Artisan. That kind of sucks. So let's just play more Nest Balls. So I got 4 Nest Ball in here right now, and I think we could maybe cut down to like 3 or even 2 if we really want to like up the supporter count or something like that. So if you're looking to like make an adjustment here, I think the first thing to be cut out of this list, the 60 right here, is probably a Nest Ball, if not the Delphox, if Delphox feels fairly irrelevant. A new card here, a big deal for Charizard, and honestly, maybe Charizard is going to be good without this. This is the Buddy Poffin. Search your deck for 2 70 HP Pokemon, basic Pokemon, and put them onto your bench. This basically acts as Battle VIP Pass in Charizard for the most part. The only thing we really can't find, which is why I like the heavier Nest Ball count a little bit, is we can't find the Rotom with it. We can find the Charmanders, we can find the Pidgeys, we can find the Manaphy. Can't find the Rotom with the Buddy Poffins, but if you can set everything else up through them, then it opens up your Ultra Balls and Nest Balls. Hopefully go find your Rotom, or maybe your Radiant Charizard or your Delphox, whatever. So 4 Buddy Poffins in here for now. So pretty straightforward list overall. 4 Rare Candy, of course. 2 Counter Catcher. This is also another part where it's like, maybe we don't need the 2 Counter Catcher. My list currently in the Paradox Red format is only still rocking that 1 Counter Catcher, and it still feels pretty comfortable, so we could go down to 1 Counter Catcher possibly, but I do have the 2 in here for right now. 1 Lost Vacuum. This is still a really powerful card in the meta. There's a lot of tool cards that we don't want to be sticking in play, like the Maximum Belt, stuff like Bravery Charms as well. We want to make sure we can be able to get rid of those. So yeah, the 1 loss vacuum is still really good. Would definitely still include that. I don't think you need 2 anymore. Once again, same reason as lower stadium count. We just don't need to bump the path to the peak anymore. Switch card, of course we need that to move our Radiant Charizard, possibly. Just kind of good in general. 2 Super Rod as well for the energy recovery. And then speaking of the energy, let's get into it. I've got 6 fire still rocking the 6 fire, yes, alongside the Delphox. I know it's not that many energy. Like I said, Delphox I think of more as like a closer or something like that, or it's like I'm planning to let it get knocked out on the following turn, or it's kind of like a closer up against the B-Barrel decks where you can kind of go, you know, KO your B-Barrels plus Iono, and then I'm winning next turn, so it doesn't really matter what you do. So 6 fire energy, like I said, maybe it's a little bit low, especially when you're including the Delphox in the deck. Not too sure, like I said. So my first take, my Charizard EX first take in the Temporal Forces post-rotation format is 0 games played. This is just all my experience and knowledge being put into a Charizard deck in this format. The last card, the 60th card in this deck, and I do have a tech card I'll talk about here in a second, is the Mist Energy. Prevent all effects of attacks done to the Pokemon this card is attached to. This can be utilized in so many different ways against so many different matchups, not just with this deck, but as a card in general. It stops the Star Requiem from Lost Tina. It stops Lost Mine from targeting certain Pokemon. It also prevents TMD Evolution as well for the card this is attached to. So this card seems pretty powerful overall, especially if there's a lot of Charizard hate through TMD Evolution. You could like put this on your Pidgeot or one of your Charizards. Now it can't be TMD evolved, or you can protect a basic bench Pokemon from a Sableye or something like that. So that's why I don't have the Jirachi in here right now, because I currently do include this because it can kind of double as Jirachi protection. It's not as effective as Jirachi, of course, but it can still help you out in some situations where you don't want to be Sableye. So yeah, one of Mist Energy in here currently, and we can find that, of course, with a quick search. And this is 60 cards. This is 60 cards, but I did want to talk about one really cool tech card, kind of speaking more to potentially metagaming more so than anything. My really cool proxy card here of the Gouging Fire EX. The first attack for a fire on a colorless does 60 damage, got 230 HP. We're really interested in the second attack here, though. This is actually a really powerful attack for a lot of situations. The big one is it gets around Vulpix V-Star and one-hit KOs it. Vulpix V-Star did just get 2nd place at the first major tournament in this format, the Champions League over in Japan, and if that picks up steam and becomes a popular tech card to include to help beat Charizard, because the Vulpix is really hard for Charizard to deal with, I'm not gonna lie, then you could just play this, and this just is like, okay, 260 damage, knock out your Vulpix, and that's pretty good, and that probably just wins you the matchup, to be honest, if you include this card. Also, it gives you a way to be aggressive against Arceus decks, where it's like if the Arceus player hasn't drawn a prize card yet, then you can get up there and you hit him for 260, or get the choice spell involved, and we can even punch Arceus V-Stars for like 290 damage or something. So if they go like turn 2 Arceus knockout, we can respond with, okay, turn 2 Gouging Fire knockout, which can be pretty cool. So this is not in the deck currently, because I think it is a little bit more of a tech card than anything, so I don't know what the meta looks like right now, so I don't know if I'd want to include this in my base 60. The Delphox is also kind of a tech card, but I like the idea of the Delphox a little bit more neutrally than I do the Gouging Fire. If there's no Vulpix and Arceus isn't that popular, this card's just not very good. But what is really good is B-Barrel. B-Barrel is really good, and so is Lugia, or so it seems. And the Delphox deals with both of those, I think, pretty well. So I do like the Delphox quite a bit. A little bit less sold on this. This one's a little bit more niche, a little bit more meta-specific, but definitely a card to consider when you're going throughout this meta, moving forward in the next couple months, and you're trying to figure out answers for situations. Definitely remember that the Gouging Fire does exist. And that is my first take on Charizard in the Temporal Forces format. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be coming at you with a lot more of these videos. Gonna be probably doing Chi and Pao next, so stay tuned for that, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.